Welcome to the Jamaican Heritage Hub. Today, we trace one of the most improbable and inspiring journeys in global sports, Jamaica's rise in bobsledding. From our daring debut at the 1988 Winter Olympics to the ensuing decades of grit and determination, resulting in the current renaissance and ultimately the historic gold medal won on November 24th, 2025 in Whistler, Canada. This is a story of soldiers, sprinters, engineers, and dreamers, men and women who defied climate, expectation, finances, and some would dare say logic to carve Jamaica's name into the Heisey history books. I joke, me make into the icy history books. The Jamaican bobsleigh story. All right, wait a little bit. So the sport's official name is bobsleigh, but bobsled is the alternate name. And we typically work with bobsled, so we are going to bobsled it. So the Jamaican bobsled story really began in 1987 when American businessmen George Fish and William Maloney observed the explosive power and coordination of Jamaican pushcart racers and sprinters. For those of us who didn't know, there was a thing in Jamaica called pushcart derby. So yes, not just pushcart through the market, but we had a sport called pushcart. Pushcart racing was a thing. And so they believed that those skills could translate into elite bobsled starts. They engaged the services of Howard Seiler, who was a U.S. bobsledder who had competed at the 1972 and 1980 Olympics as the coach. Of course, a lot of people doubted, but there were others who bought into the vision. The Jamaican Defense Force was one of the major entities who bought into the vision, and they stepped forward, providing some of their strongest and most disciplined athletes. The first Olympic team to Calgary, 1988, was comprised of Dudley Stokes, who was a pilot, JDF Private Michael White, Devon Harris, a JDF officer at the time who is now a global motivational speaker, Freddie Powell, and Nelson Chris Stokes. Chris is Dudley's younger brother who replaced Caswell Allen, who'd sustained a pre-competition injury. Fun fact, Mr. Stokes is also now the current head of the Bobsled Federation in Jamaica, and he's doing a phenomenal job. Their underdog status as an unlikely competitor in a cold weather sport, represented by a nation with a tropical environment, quickly gained popularity at the Games. They had little experience in the sport, having to appeal to other teams for basic equipment in order to compete. Sporting camaraderie, thankfully, across national boundaries followed, and in the final run, they lost control of the sled, crashed, and never officially finished. They didn't officially finish. No, imagine this. They literally were at the Olympics borrowing things, but they still pushed through and persevere. Their crash in the final heat did nothing to dampen their impact. In fact, the world witnessed their resilience, their humor, and their courage, qualities that would inspire the film Cool Runnings and bring worldwide love to Jamaica and Jamaica's winter program. You all remember the movie Cool Runnings? Jamaica have a bobsled team. Dudley Stokes and Michael White eventually entered the two-man bobsled event at the same Olympics, and they finished 30th out of 41 teams. Jamaica returned to the Winter Olympics in the two-man bobsled in 92, 94, 98, 2002, and 2014. In the building years, which are widely considered to be, 92 to 2002, Jamaica was never content with being a novelty. Through the 90s and the 2000s, we built a quiet, consistent legacy. Albertville 92 and Lillehammer 1994, the Jamaica team returned stronger than ever, under the guidance of Coach Sam Bach, and we finished 14th in Lillehammer, ahead of countries that literally had frozen lakes everywhere, including in some of the competitors' backyards, I'm sure. In 1998 in Nagano and in 2002 at Salt Lake City, our team featured athletes from sprinting, weightlifting, football, the Jamaica Defense Force again, and we also now had professionals from technical fields like engineering and mechanics. These years established Jamaica as a serious competitive presence. In fact, Winston Watt and Lascelles Brown set the Olympic Games start record in the two-man event at Salt Lake City in 2002. Jamaica's individuals. They are all unique and almost all come from other sports or professions. We've had sprinters and track athletes like Carrie Russell, Tyquendo Tracey, Winston Watts, and Marvin Dixon, all sprinters. And Carrie Russell, of course, World Championship gold medalist. Tyquendo Tracey, elite sprinter with a 9.96 personal best. Winston Watts, four-time Olympian. And Marvin Dixon, another one of our premier sprinters. We've had military members such as Dudley Stokes, Devon Harris, and Samuel Clayton. We also have had professionals, as mentioned before, engineers, mechanics, and, people like Mr. Chris Stokes, who is a financial executive, Wayne Blackwood, mechanical engineer, and Shanwayne Stevens, who was a Royal Air Force gunner and is an elite push athlete. This diversity is part of Jamaica's magic. Every sled has multiple disciplines fused into one cohesive team. In the modern era, we've had growth despite the odds. Despite funding challenges which seem to plague every Jamaican sport, weirdly enough, sarcasm, Jamaica has remained committed to our bobsled teams, and this is where I have to big up the executive leadership, the governance of the entity. The board of directors, Mr. Chris Stokes, Dave Smith, Shanwayne Stevens, Kathleen Polito, Belinda Williams, Neil Fortier, the executive leadership again, Mr. Stokes, Darcy Perkins, Natalia Stokes, Walter Davis, and the technical leadership, Todd Hayes, Pat Brown, and Wayne Thomas. Because despite funding challenges and all of that, this is one sporting federation that has not just held firm, but they have improved with every outing. Their athletic recruitment, their international partnerships, the sled technology, and the way they foster training opportunities for their athletes is really a masterclass that should be replicated by our other sporting entities. So by 2022, we qualified for 3 events at the Winter Olympics: the 2-man, the 4-man, and the women's monobob. Our next video will be all about the women in winter sports. But this leadership has now led us to where we are. And here we are in 2025, where everything has changed. Whistler, Canada, November 2025, the North America Cup. We have now achieved our greatest bobsled results in our 38-year history. First of all, we had the 2-man team comprised of pilot Shane Pitta and brakeman Nimroy Turgot. They won a historic bronze medal at the North American Cup in Whistler. This achievement marked Jamaica's first and best ever podium finish in the 2-man event. Their fastest start time was 4.85 seconds, which they accomplished in run 2. And sound the big team. We won gold in the 4-man bobsled. Date, November 24th, a date that has now been etched in ice and in our history books. The golden team is comprised of Shane Pitter, again, he's the pilot. The brakeman, Junior Morris, brakeman, Andrae Dacres, and Tyquendo Tracey. All world-class athletes, former university sprinters. I mean, known for their precision, known for their explosive starts, and their excellent conditioning, no doubt under the effortless leadership of Wayne Thomas, the national strength and conditioning coach. This stellar team delivered 2 near-perfect runs, clocking a combined 1 minute 45.88 seconds and beating traditional winter sports superpowers from Canada, Germany, Austria, and USA. And don't believe this was luck. This was not luck. It was the result of sprint mechanics, raw power, military discipline, engineering precision, Jamaican determination, and great governance. For the first time ever, Jamaica has stood at the top of the podium in a 4-man bobsled event of this magnitude, and even more, in a winter sport, a place where it don't even get cold, it get chilly. Well, it get cold in some place, if you know, you know. But I mean, this is a remarkable accomplishment that we need to celebrate, especially in the face of, what we're dealing with in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa. And to think that this is a journey that began with jokes and disbelief in 1988 and now has finally produced gold. This victory definitely signals a new era with significant legacy impact. We now have greater respect internationally, increased funding opportunities, which I really hope the Federation takes advantage of, stronger vehicle, right, for youth recruitment, renewed global interest in Jamaican winter sports. And this should also be a propulsive momentum for the growth of women's and skeleton programs and pride across the Jamaican diaspora. Let's not forget the women as we are going along. But most importantly, it proves what Jamaicans, the real nationalist Jamaicans, have always known, that we, yes, we are the hottest thing on ice. From borrowed helmets and other equipment in Calgary to the top step of the podium in Whistler, from pushcarts in Jamaica to a 145.88 gold medal performance, from soldiers learning to stare to sprinters mastering the cold. This is the soul of Jamaica, unyielding, unpredictable, and always unstoppable. Thank you to everyone who has made meaningful contributions to the Jamaican bobsled program from then until now. And our next video will be all about the Jamaican women on ice. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Jamaican Heritage Hub, where Jamaica's soul, history, and culture come alive.